Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about what in my view, at least, some of the most flagrant usurpations and trampling of the law, due legal process that I've seen, certainly at this level in the pursuit of the lawfare action against Donald Trump in the United States. Now, some information's come to light recently just about one of those cases, which is the attempt to go after Trump for having files and documents kept at Mar-a-Lago, his home in Florida. So the charge, as I understand it at least, is that those documents were being held illegally, and therefore it's a breach of the secrets and confidentiality type laws and statutes around what documents can be held and so on. So now it always seemed pretty flaky, and the raid on Mar-a-Lago by FBI agents just looked way too stage managed for it to be a serious piece of police work. So it was very suspicious from the outset, and done in that same format that they use when they want to embarrass the establishment, wants to embarrass a political opponent or the opposition. It's done with that same grandstanding type theatre. So, and this was definitely in that category. But the case is dragged on. They didn't manage to get a tame hate Trump judge, so that's complicated the case for them. I'm a little surprised they didn't manage to get that, possibly because it's in Florida, and the Florida administration wouldn't roll over in the same way that the folks in New York have, to make it just a hysterical anti-Trump sort of vendetta type thing. But nonetheless, I'm thinking that Trump's legal team were maybe not doing as good a job as they could have here. But some of the key evidence here is that, and this sort of illustrates the level and the extent that the deep state will go to get Trump, and how the law and due legal process and all these things mean nothing to these people. Their only objective is ideological, and when you have an ideological sort of view on things, codified law gets in the way. Codified law is, and I'll do another video on this, codified law is where the elites agree to share power with the people, because the law and its clear codification is the elite. That is the ultimate power. And of course, the globalists and the deep state, they just want to remove that just gets in their way, and they're showing, as every day goes by, less and less regard for the law or its codification and so on. Now, one of the key things here with Trump, which is absolutely important, if not the most critical point, president. I mean, he was president of the United States, for goodness sakes. Trump had a full legal clearance for handling secret files, so he was totally legally allowed to do that. He was totally allowed to have those documents with him at Mar-a-Lago, and the nature and type and content of the documents, the information, he was fully 100% legally allowed to do that. There was no illegality at all, 100% legal. And he had that authorization, that government issued authorization, which as president you'd expect. Now, typically that stays with presidents for some years, if not for the rest of their lives. But anyway, Trump had it at the time. So when there's conspiracy to commit perjury and conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, in my view at least, where the National Archives people are conspiring with the FBI and the goons and the flunkies in the White House and the deep state generally, what can we do? What can we use to go after Trump? We need something. What? Anything. It doesn't fucking matter. We need something. We got to neutralize the motherfucker. Make something up if you fucking have to. But gee, we got to get something. So they decided on the these archives and the records and files. Now it seems that Trump didn't request those records, that they were actually in a separate storage area. Then somebody in a logistics department decided, well, they couldn't keep them there. What do they do with them? We better, Trump's got clearance. They're his records from the term he was as president. So we need to send them to him and he can keep them in a secure area. And you wouldn't have needed to be an executive director. I think a fairly mid-level bureaucrat could have decided that. And so they shipped them out, however, through whatever means over to Trump's place in Mar-a-Lago, which, by the way, is quite a secure place. I mean, he's got presidential, security. He's got cameras everywhere you look and this sort of stuff. So this is not a low security, not like Biden's garage, something like that. So this is quite a secure areas go. This is quite a secure area. So anyway, they want to get Trump. So they have to get the files to his place. That was done. So whether that was engineered or just quietly done, or some bureaucrat was, well, you can't have those there. You'll have to send it to Trump, just so they could have something to discover during the raid. So the FBI raid on Trump's place at Mar-a-Lago. But they've got a problem here. Trump's actually cleared to have these documents. So they can't very well go after him legally if he's got full legal clearance. So my understanding of what they did is they then found the document that gives Trump this legal clearance and then canceled the legal clearance, but backdated it by something like 12 months, between 6 and 12 months. So that we're talking falsification and doctoring of altering of documents here. So Trump's got the legal clearance, but if we're going to get him, we've got to say he hasn't got legal clearance. So we'll just backdate this. Now, somehow, for some reason, Trump and his legal team didn't know that Trump had legal clearance. And they didn't know, and therefore they couldn't determine, not initially at least, they couldn't determine if the documents had been backdated or falsified or changed or interfered with in some way. Huge oversight by the legal team, because if they could have gone to the judge straight away and go, look, he's actually got clearance here. Even if the deep state, cancels that clearance the next day, at the time he had, President Trump, had full and total 100% legal clearance to be handling and to be in custody of those files and documents. Therefore, they've got no case. They could argue, well, we're going to cancel it tomorrow, and so you need to return those documents or send them to a third location, or do something with them to be in compliance to whatever the new status of things were, but they didn't. So the whole thing was a setup. They send the documents, and they firstly look at the clearance. So they say, okay, well, we've got to cancel that clearance and backdate from the day that it was cancelled. Then we send him the documents, and then we raid and say, look, he's not legally able to do this, and he's got the doc. So the whole thing smells of a setup. Now, if you look at the levels of conspiracy here, falsification, conspiracy to commit perjury, falsification of documents, setups, entrapment, I mean, it's got the lot. And and similarly, there have been various people from the FBI that have given evidence to various depositions, senatorial committees, things like that, and they House committees, and they've clearly committed perjury. In my view, I believe so. They've clearly committed perjury, and yet, when I look over the landscape, no one's been charged with conspiracy. No one's been held to account. No one's been arrested. Nothing. All of these people appear to have, not only in this case, but in others, that they appear to have got away with it completely. None of the conspiracy to commit perjury, the stage managed setups, the backdating, none of these things, which are big deals. These are big deals, by the way, assuming that we have a codified legal system. where due legal process and all this sort of thing, these things absolutely matter. But it would appear not so, because even talking to people in the legal profession here in Australia and others, when this sort of stuff comes up, they so quick, because they're all ideological these days. The idea of codified law is something that a couple of a few of the old timers, sort of old timer type legal people, still think. The rest of the people are all caught up in this ideological vortex of, well, yeah, okay, so kind of the perjury, conspiracy and perjury, that's kind of not the best look. Altering documents. Yeah, well, we'd rather we didn't have to do this. But Trump is such a polarizing figure. So, Nazis, Hitler, so we're kind of allowed to do these things because really our intentions are good. So the fact that we break the law, commit perjury, fabricate evidence, this and that, we're allowed to do that because ideologically we're doing a good thing. And that's pretty much the attitude. That they don't really see that they've broken the law or done anything wrong. Sure, it's not such a good look, but we're allowed to do it. Now, my first sort of experience of the ideological law was the divorce courts. And the only reason I got involved in that, I was losing, I was like a VP at the time of sort of new product development and in this technology company. And I was losing so many of the top programmers and design engineers and things like that through the divorce system. They were getting absolutely torn to pieces in the divorce courts. And so it wasn't worth their while to be earning a high income. So I was losing all these people, and some of these people were critical to getting projects completed on time and on budget. So because of that, I ended up, because they were coming to me and telling me about what was going on, and I thought, no, they've got to be exaggerating. No judge would allow perjury and conspiracy to commit perjury. I mean, they're judges. Judges wouldn't allow that. Judges would hold these people in contempt, put them in prison. But so and the story was about the same. There was a lot of consistency between the people that I knew them well enough to know that if they said something, that was an accurate sort of take on things. So I got more closely involved and started looking at it more closely and considering what was going on. I was staggered by the ideological nature of this court. They didn't operate by codified law. They didn't operate by evidence and rules of evidence and facts. It was all this massive miasma of ideology, where males, men, particularly straight white men, are evil, oppressor, Nazis, and all women are victims. Women are entitled to compensation because of centuries of oppression and this and that and the next thing. And very much this thing of the person with the least social power must be supported by the apparatus of the state for ideological reasons, not for any practical reason or sensible reason or useful reason. So anyway, looking at this, I was intrigued at the amount of how casually the operatives around the divorce courts treated conspiracy to commit perjury. Well, why don't you say that the father's a child abuser and a wife basher in your report of the thing? Then we'll say to the judge that Billy Bob can't be allowed to see the children anymore, and he's only allowed to have supervised visits with a black lesbian, and these sorts of things. So it was done. These sort of things were going on quite casually. So I went into it a bit further and to find that if someone, a man, straight white male, complained about it to the police could very well detain him for questioning rather than actually deal with the people who are committing perjury. Backdating of documents, falsification of documents, changing dates on documents, these sort of things were absolutely routine. Probably still are today, I don't know, in the divorce courts. So all of this stuff was viewed. They didn't really think they were doing anything wrong. They were doing it for as they saw it, the right reasons, for ideological reasons. So I then went and looked later on, I looked at the amount of people, this was some years ago, the amount of people who had been charged with it. So, men of more substantial means would go after some of these people for the blatant perjury and falsification of reports, these sorts of things. And some of them were found guilty, but they would only hear it in the actual divorce courts. You couldn't take it out into a criminal court. It could only be heard in the divorce courts. And some of these people were getting fired, but then they'd be rehired the next day as a consultant. So I couldn't find a single person that, even if they were dead to rights for multiple counts of the most blatant perjury and lies and so on, government operatives and operatives around the divorce courts, I couldn't find a single one that went to prison, nor a single one that was suffered any penalty. One was got fired, but was hired again the next day by an NGO. Another got fired, but then was hired as legal advisor for a major media organization, and so on and so forth. So nobody was paying any penalty. No one suffered as a consequence of this. Of course, they were doing the globalist bidding, creating social division amongst the genders, and which is very much a central plank of race, gender, and so on, social division. So these people are doing these things. They're to Trump. They're ideologues, and they don't really see it doing anything wrong. And we need to understand that as long as sacrosanct codified law exists, the globalists cannot take control, because the law is sovereign. So they must remove the sovereignty of law and turn it into an ideological plaything, which is what they're doing, and which is how they're using the law against Trump in this lawfare. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.